Hi, I'm Diana, and my relationship with my mom has always been pretty interesting. You see, my mom is in jail, and has been for about 10 years now. I live with my older sister who has done her best to look after me, but it's just not the same as having a mom around. It isn't her fault that she's in jail. My dad didn't treat her very well. One night, she took the money out of their joint account and ran away for her own protection. She even had to leave me behind to try and escape him, but the police caught her trying to leave the country with the money. The court didn't believe her, and she ended up being charged with fraud and being sentenced to years in prison. I try my best to keep my mom happy. I bring her presents and I cook her favorite cakes and bring them to her in prison, but they never seem to make her happy. She's so unhappy in jail that I just can't do anything to fix it. Well, at least she is one of the most popular women with the other inmates, as she told me. They even call her Rocky as she's so tough. No one will dare to mess with her. So, with Mother's Day coming up, I knew I had to do something really special to make her happy, and I had the best idea. I thought I would do something different, and something big. I hired a plane to do some skywriting in the sky above her prison. I thought when she and her prison friends saw it, she would be so happy. And I was going to surprise her by skydiving out of the plane, too. When it got to the day of my skydive, I got really nervous. I don't like heights. When I was up in the plane, the man literally had to push me out. I was so scared. But once in the sky, I was having so much fun. I really started to enjoy it. As I was falling to earth, I was so happy. I could see all the inmates in the yard below and knew that my mom would be there watching. I looked up and saw the plane in the sky riding in pink smoke. Happy Mother's Day, Rocky. I was so pleased. Then I pressed the button on my backpack and it released more pink smoke, my mom's favorite color. I was so excited. Mom would definitely see me now. But I hadn't anticipated one thing. I couldn't see. There was smoke everywhere. I started coughing and spluttering and my eyes were sore. Then I started to worry. I knew that I had to release my parachute, but it was so smoky I couldn't see the pull cord. I started feeling all over myself trying to find the cord, but I just couldn't get a hold of it. Then I looked below me and I was near the ground. I knew if I didn't pull the cord soon, then I would be in big trouble. I finally found the cord and pulled it. I felt the parachute open up, but it was too late. I was traveling too fast and I was going to hit the floor with a bang. I closed my eyes and braced myself. I landed on my back with lots of women in orange jumpsuits gathered around me. Then some prison guards ran over to me. It was pretty scary. Some of them had guns. There was a lot of shouting going on. I looked around. I couldn't see my mom anywhere. I became aware that I couldn't feel my legs. I looked down and realized they were sticking out at funny angles. I let out a scream and then passed out. I woke up in the hospital with lots of doctors and nurses working on me. There was blood everywhere. I must have passed out again as I woke up a few days later with both of my legs in plaster. It turned out my parachute had opened, but I still hit the ground really hard. I had landed right in the middle of the prison yard. I should have died, but by some miracle I had only broken my legs. The next day I was discharged from the hospital. I rolled outside and waited for my sister to come and collect me. But she didn't turn up. Instead, a police van pulled up in front of me. An officer got out and asked me my name. When I said who I was, he told me that I was under arrest. I was wheeled into the back of the van and driven off. I was so scared. I had never gotten into trouble in my life. They wouldn't even tell me why I was being arrested. We got to a large building and stopped outside. I was wheeled in and they finally told me. I was being arrested for breaking into the women's prison. I told them that it was an accident, that I was trying to surprise my mom for Mother's Day, but they didn't believe me. I asked where I was going, but they didn't answer. They just wheeled me into a room where 2 men were waiting. I realized they were prison guards. I was being put in prison. After changing into my orange jumpsuit, I was led through a door into a big cafeteria. The prison officer told me sarcastically that I was lucky as I had just arrived in time for lunch. He laughed and left me. All the prisoners in the room turned around and stared at me. This really tough-looking woman walked up to me and looked like she was going to start threatening me. Before she could say anything, I told her that she'd better watch out, as my mom was Rocky and if she messed with me, she'd have to answer to her. The woman's tough face dropped, then she started laughing. She told me that the nickname Rocky was ironic. She wasn't tough. She was a wimp and a liar who everyone hated. I then got really angry at the woman and said that my mom would be out of the prison soon anyway, that she didn't even deserve to be in prison with her and everyone else. She started laughing even more and said that my mom was in jail for child abandonment and she wasn't innocent. I couldn't believe it. Why was she saying that? After eating the worst meal I had ever had, I wheeled around the prison until I found Mom. I asked her about what the woman said. She said that yes, she had abandoned me. She had never wanted me and she'd lied about why she'd gone to prison. She had stolen my dad's money and had left me in a car to go and start a new life. He was the innocent one in this, not her. She said that I was such a stupid girl, I always believed her lies. Then she told me that she was going to be released in 2 months. So she would be in the real world and I would be the one stuck in prison. Then I saw who she really was. All my life I had idolized her and tried to impress her, and I could have died trying to make her happy, and it was a lie. Well, I had had enough. For the next few weeks in prison, I kept my head low. Luckily, people left me alone. I used my time to think up a plan for revenge. One day, my sister came to visit me. When she arrived, she already knew of my plan. She'd always known what my mom was really like. It was just that I'd spent so many years thinking my mom was wonderful, I had refused to believe it. When the guards weren't looking, she slipped a small package into my cast. Later on that day, I waited until Mom left her cell. We hadn't spoken for weeks, so I had to sneak in. I got the package out of my cast. It was lots of packets of cigarettes. I took one out, then hid the rest inside her pillow. Then I lit the remaining cigarette and let the smoke fill up the room. I chucked it under her bed, then got out of there as quickly as possible. I waited a while, then I told a guard I could smell something funny coming down the hall. The guard sniffed the air. He could smell the smoke. My plan was working. He would find the cigarettes and think she was selling them to the other inmates, and she would get a longer sentence. That would serve her right for lying to me for all these years. But as the guard ran in, the fire alarm went off. I must have started a fire. We all had to evacuate. We were escorted outside as the prison went up in flames. But the big yard we'd been in had led out to an open gate. Some of the inmates saw it and made a run for it. There were so many people on the run that the guards couldn't stop them. And one of the inmates escaping was Mom. As she ran out to her freedom, she turned and gave me a wicked smile. I didn't try to get away. I was innocent, and besides, I was in a wheelchair. But I was so angry seeing my mom getting away. The fire was put out pretty quickly, and we were all moved back into the prison. 20 inmates had escaped, and over the next few days, they were all found and brought back to jail. The only prisoner they couldn't locate was my mom. A week after that was my court date. I was let off with a warning as they understood that it was a stunt gone wrong, not a break-in attempt. As the verdict was read out, I looked around the courtroom. I could see someone I recognized watching from the back. It was my mom. She was wearing a wig and a fake nose, but it was definitely her. I moved back in with my sister and life got back to normal. But I was always expecting my mom to turn up again one day. About a year later, there was a knock on the door late at night. I opened it and my mom was there. She pushed past me to get in. She begged me to help her. She'd been on the run for so long now. She looked different. She'd had plastic surgery to change how she looked. She claimed to be working as a spy, helping to rid the world of injustice and helping others like a superhero minus the powers. But there was a problem. If she was caught and taken back to jail, her good work would have to end. She needed me to go drive her to the border where someone was going to meet her and help her escape the country where she could carry on doing good. I agreed to help. She hid in the back of my car and I put a blanket over her. I drove in the dark with my lights out until we reached our destination. The men were there to meet us, but when I opened the boot and pulled the blanket off of her, she saw it wasn't the man she expected to see. It was the police. She looked at me in shock. I smiled to her and said, "That serves you right, Rocky."
Hi, I am Jenny. also known in my town as the girl whose groom never showed up at the wedding. You guessed it, every bride's worst nightmare came true for me. It is a day I will forever remember. Everything started with meeting the love of my life, Liam. I don't know about you, but I've always dreamed of the day I get married to my soulmate. I was madly in love with Liam. He was my best friend in every way. And of course, after a couple of years, I was looking forward to marrying him. Liam, on the other hand, never proposed. He never said a word about our future, and every time I brought it up, he just brushed it off. On top of that, Liam spent a lot of his time at work, which was kind of weird because he didn't have to. He always said that since he works at his father's company, he wanted to prove to him that he was a hard worker who earned his position. I did respect that, but I couldn't keep going with him like that. We barely spent time with each other anymore, and it caused me great pain because I loved him. Until one day, I felt like I've had enough. Liam was obviously not considering marrying me, and he was leaving me alone most of the week. I had to confront him, and to be honest, I thought that Liam wouldn't care much anyway, because everything between us was just dying slowly. I was about to break up with him, but Liam begged me not to. He said that he was sorry and that he's ready to do anything just to keep me around. He looked deep in my eyes and said, "Jenny, please. You're all I have. I can't lose you." I really loved him. So I agreed to stay with him on the condition that we will start planning our future together. Liam agreed. He then started to change. He gave me more of his time. He spoke about marriage and said that he promises to propose to me at the right time. I was very excited, but not for long. A week had passed, and Liam started getting back to his old self of ignoring me. I felt like he was not being truthful with me again, and I had to do something, so I texted Liam and said that we need to talk that night after work. When I got home at night, I found Liam waiting for me with a smile on his face. He said that he had a surprise for us, and he pulled out 2 tickets to Paris from his pocket. "Are we going to Paris?" I asked. "Yes, baby," Liam said. "Get your things ready." I was a bit confused, but also happy. I mean, who could say no to Paris? During our trip, Liam took me to a fancy restaurant and asked me to dress up. We sat down at a quiet little table and scanned the menu. Liam was staring at me longer than usual when I felt awkward and asked him why he's looking at me like that. He said nothing. He kept staring but had the faintest hint of a smile playing on his lips. I thought he was acting weird, so I asked him what was going on. "I can't think of a better place and time than to give you this," he said. He pulled out a small red velvet box, then dropped to one knee. Slowly, he opened the box. Inside was the most amazing and huge diamond ring. It was so shiny and sparkly, I almost blurted out, "Yes!" right there before he even had the chance to ask. My hands immediately went over my mouth as I gasped. Finally! I never thought I would get engaged to Liam, let alone in Paris of all places. "Yes!" I said, crying as he placed the ring on my finger. "I will!" People around us cheered and